Christian parenting.
As Christian parents, we all want to be praying for our kids, but knowing what to pray can really be hard. That's why Christian Parenting created a great cloud of witnesses prayer journal. It's to help busy parents like you and me intentionally pray for our kids and their faith all year long. This weekly journal walks through the lives of faithful men and women in Scripture like Abraham, Sarah, Moses, Rahab, who trusted an extraordinary God. It helps you to pray boldly for your kids, to follow in their footsteps, grow in character, deepen their faith, and trust God's plan. And every Monday on this podcast right here on Pardon the Mess, I will be praying with you through this very journal. So grab a group of your friends, your mom friends, and y'all commit to this school year praying for your kids. Visit cpgive.org and use code CLOUD to get your special podcast listener discount. That's cpgive.org, code CLOUD. Hey friends, welcome back to Pardon the Mess. I'm your host, Courtney DeFeo. Let's talk about midlife for a second. I know that I'm supposed to be making sourdough and wearing a weighted vest and playing some mahjong. I'm not doing any of those things, but I am gaining weight and not sleeping and all the things that come. I'm seeing many doctors. Don't you guys worry. But I need to talk about protein. I know that it's important. It's always been important, but I don't really love it. So can y'all give me some lunch ideas? Like the other day, I literally had a rolled up piece of turkey and was dunking it in a Chick-fil-A sauce. That was my lunch. I'm like, what? I'm like a kid. So can y'all give me some easy, quick protein ideas? Because I'm just going to grab something fast, and that's always not the healthiest option. So think of me like a toddler, an amateur, and give me the easiest recipes you've got. Send it over to me. DM me, email me, whatever. Come find me. I need your ideas. But today's guest has nothing to do with protein, but everything to do with motherhood. It's Jessica Robertson, who you probably know her and her husband, Jep, from Duck Dynasty. They are parents of 5 kids, and one of those children they adopted. And we're going to talk about that today. I don't know that we've done enough on Pardon the Mess about adoption. And I'm always intrigued to hear just the story of how God puts families together. And Jessica, as you'll hear, has such a heart for her kids and for adoption and really all children in the world. And I love that that just oozes out of her. She says she's emotional, but I think she's got the love of God in her heart for people and for kids. And it just, again, oozes out of her. They were on a show that was called Jep and Jess Growing the Dynasty. Did you ever see that one? It was a spinoff. And she is passionate about ministries like All God's Children International. And she has a new book called Dear Valor that is all about adoption. And it's for little kids to really help not just kids that are adopted, but also kids that aren't adopted, have empathy and compassion and understand what adoption even means. It's a part of the Brave Books series. And I'm delighted for you guys to get to know Jessica and just hear about, again, her heart for motherhood and her own family and how we can just learn from her story. Enjoy. Hey, Jessica, welcome to Pardon the Mess. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Now, tell me where you are. I should know this. Are you in Louisiana? Is that where you guys live?
Yes, we're in Louisiana. We're in West Monroe, so northeast, close to like Mississippi. We're like an hour from Vicksburg, Mississippi at the most. But yeah, we're here. We actually lived in Austin. After the show ended, we decided to go kind of just do a little adventure of our own as a family. So we moved to Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Right outside, of Austin. And we had a lot of friends there. My best friends from there, and moved back there to take care of our family's ranch. And so we moved there for 5 years, and it was amazing. But we knew kind of towards the end that we wanted to come back home to Louisiana. Yeah. And we do love Texas. We actually have a ranch out there close to Abilene and a couple places in Abilene where our kids they went to college there. Our 2 oldest did Abilene Christian University. And so now they have recently moved back because our oldest daughter had a baby. So they moved back here to finish college so that I can help with the baby. So now we're grandparents and we love it.
Wow. That's so exciting. Yeah, we're in the Dallas area. And so we've got several kids that from our school go to Abilene and love it. So that is a great place.
It's a great school.
For those that don't know or aren't as familiar with you, will you just kind of set up who you are, who you're married to, how old the kids are, and all that good stuff?
Of course. So I am Jessica Robertson. I am married to Jep Robertson. He is the youngest of Phil Robertson's kiddos. We obviously were on a show called Dynasty, as well as some other shows. We did a spinoff of our own called Jep and Jess Growing the Dynasty. And so we have 5 kids, 4 biological, 1 adopted child, whom we adopted when he was 3 days old. And so, we have 2 grown kids that are married and one just finished college. The other one is still going through college, and they both live here. And then we have a daughter that's graduated high school this May. And then we have 2 boys left at home. One will be a sophomore next year, and then we'll have a 3rd grader. So big jump. So we have our youngest, is 9. And then we also have a grandbaby who is almost 4 months old. So
you can answer any question of any stage if you got it covered.
I'll answer it truthfully, but I don't know if I even still have this. I mean, right? Every child is so different. So parenting is so different. We parented each kid had their little quirks that we had to work around. And so it's not always the same, right?
Yeah, that's right. When we were recording this, you just recently lost your amazing father-in-law, Phil. And so I wanted to give you just a chance, and I have a million questions, but maybe one would be for you personally, what do you hope people learned from his life, either public or private, when they engaged with him and his story?
Goodness. Well, his life was very public, which is like all of ours pretty much, but his voice, I feel like, rang further, than most all of ours, and his platform that God built. And obviously everything was centered around Jesus and our faith, right? And so this, it's just a legacy of faith in Jesus Christ. And that's really what we want to raise our kids in. And we really hope that other people that we interact with and come in contact with us, everything that they see us do in our lives, whether it's on our platforms or in person, that's really our faith in Jesus is the core value and the rock of our family.
I love it. He's so bold about it. And I can imagine even before there were cameras, he would just talk to the person at the gas station. So were you raised in a Christian home? Was that weird coming into that? Or were you like, oh yeah, this is what I knew growing up to?
I grew up in a Christian home for sure. My dad wasn't necessarily a super church going or anything. And so I will say he came to his faith later in life, way later. But I grew up going to a Pentecostal church, all my life. And so with my grandmother, my mom, my aunts and uncles and cousins. And so, yes, that was definitely part. I was really close with my mom's mom, who is, and that was a big influence, like spiritual influence in my life. Like there wasn't a day that she had no money, but she was so rich in Jesus and love. And so there was never a day she didn't talk about Jesus. You never were around her where she didn't talk about Jesus and the goodness.
So fun.
And so I grew up like that, and Kay grew up very similar. So Kay and I have always been super close. And my relationship with my grandmother, the same with her and her grandmother. Like she was raised by her grandmother pretty much. And so I wasn't raised, but we just had such a great relationship together. And so even though it was a little different, like my dad was not this godly role model that I had. My dad had other things. He was a great father. He taught me everything and was very present in my life. Where Phil had, like you said, his voice was loud and he shared the gospel with everybody. And that was such an amazing foundation that I loved and admired and wanted for our family that was a little different than my upbringing. But yeah, the moment I met them, I mean, you knew their faith and they embraced me, and Kay became such not just another mother to me, but like a close friend. And of course, it was just such an honor to be able to sit in their living room year after year and just hear Phil share the gospel or just share something else that he learned about Jesus. He always had a Bible beside him. And so he would always, every day I saw him. I actually, when Jep and I first got married, I would go down and help. Like I didn't have like a normal job. So I would go down, and at the time, Duck Commander was at Phil and Kay's house. And so I would go down there because we had one vehicle. So it was either sit at home by myself or go down there. So I would go answer phones, take orders for duck calls. Kay cooked big meals every single day for lunch for all the employees, which it wasn't a huge crowd back in those days as it is today. But she would cook. So I would watch and learn how to cook Jep's favorite meals, in the kitchen, help clean dishes and just be there and present. But every day he would pull out his Bible, and it was such an amazing thing to be able to witness that and to be able to carry that on, for generations,
Yeah. Gosh, I think about, and we'll know one day, but what heaven must be like when he got there. Just the thousands of people that are there because of him and your family is really a cool thought to think about. So one day you'll get to see too, right?
I love it. Yes, I know.
I love it. Will you tell me a little bit? We'll switch gears to your family. Yeah. The adoption story. I think there's probably many moms, and I've got grown kids, but I remember this feeling when my kids were little. I was like, should we adopt? Is this something God wants us to do? And there's probably a lot of families, either they have just adopted or it's a prayer, it's a thought in their heart, and they're kind of navigating through. So I would just love for you to tell a little bit about your story and what God's taught you through the adoption process.
Sure. So I wanted to adopt a few years before Jep actually decided that this would be a good thing for our family. And that's probably just a natural motherly instinct. And when you see a need, and that was just like my parents, and a lot like Phil and Kay, they always welcome people in their home. If there was a need, if somebody needed somewhere to stay, we've taken people in, and give them a place to stay for X amount of time or whatever. And so that was very much a part of my upbringing. So when you see a need and you feel like that's the Holy Spirit calling you to move on that and act on it. Yeah. But we were really fortunate. We had 4 biological kids. We were young when we had our kids. So by the time I was 28, we had 4 kids.
Wow.
And then I was unable to have any more children, which was fine. And then we started working a lot with different orphanages and one at the church. And then I feel like through the show, there are other opportunities to see needs were presented to us. And I just felt this huge calling, in our early 30s, to this is something I feel like we should do. Jep was not necessarily on board because obviously it was the craziness of the show was going on.
Right.
And also we had 4 kids and we were really blessed and fortunate, right? And so he's like, why, we don't need to do this right now. And it wasn't until a couple of years later, he went on a mission trip with our church. He was filming for something and he just saw how happy these kids were that had nothing. I won't cry.
Yeah.
But it's, just basically it tugged on his heart. And so he came home and he was like, I feel like this is the Holy Spirit put it on your heart. And I feel like it's time that we can do this. So at that point, I was, I guess, 34, and we went down a closed adoption route through a private adoption attorney just because of the show. And we had other kids for the protection of our kids, for the protection of the child we were going to adopt. And so we started that process, and going into it, she's an amazing, godly woman, and started everything off with prayer. So we felt so at home and comfortable and at peace for where we were. And it took about 10 months before we got that call from her. We had a couple of failed adoptions. And we went into it and said, we don't care about gender or race. That that doesn't matter to us. But we were actually working with a birth mom at the time, and we were doing a closed adoption. And towards the end, she had decided she was thinking about doing an open adoption, which at that point, I had spent months praying for this child, praying for her, and I was like, I don't want to lose this opportunity just because we want it to be closed. And so, but in the meantime, there were some problems that she'd been arrested and done some other things. So it was kind of shaky ground already. And then we got this call out of the blue on a Saturday. I was at a soccer field with River and got a call from the attorney and said, there was a baby born yesterday. Oh. She called me and she wants a closed adoption. And so I was like, what do we do here? And like I said, I was torn. I was like, am I choosing this child over another? And it was this hard pull for me. So I said, can I just go see the baby? And so she scheduled a time for me to go. It was the next day. And I went in and held the baby all day and fed him, changed him. Obviously, it was our little Gussie. And I remember being like, I still torn, like, am I choosing this? Am I not choosing this other child? So, but I had a friend, a sweet friend who was there, came to visit, and I said, I'm just torn. And she said, if God didn't want you here right now, you wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
And it was like this overwhelming piece of like, you're right. He wouldn't have opened this door for us. And Jeff came up to the where we were, and he looked at me and said, yep, we'll take him. Just like that. It was so Robertson way. It was like,
we'll take him.
Yeah, because I was torn. I thought, I'm gonna just know when I hold this baby, this is my child, right? You're gonna get this sense of it. But in all reality, I could have gone in and picked every baby up out of the nursery and loved that baby because it was a choice, right? Your heart, like I could easily love any. And they're all just these sweet, innocent babies here, right? And so fresh. And so that's where I was. But when he came in, and it was such confidence because the birth mom had no prenatal care. She had no doctor's visit. She just came in and had this baby. And so I didn't know, like, they didn't know the birth dad. It was just like, what if something's wrong? And Jeff was like, if something's wrong, we'll face it. And I was just like constantly getting that, that confidence and affirmation from my husband of going, whatever it is, we can deal with it.
Wow.
And so we brought him home the next day. So
wow. I think you bring up in the beginning a really common struggle that women are sometimes, most of the time, ready before their husband is. So was that hard, that wait between when you felt that call and when he heard from the Lord?
It was. But I will say that I never pressured him to adopt. Like, it would just be something I like, he would walk in, I'd be crying about something, and it would be about seeing a child in need. And he would be like, I'm just so emotional, which I am. I'm an emotional person by nature. But it wasn't something we talked about all the time. It would just be like something would prick my heart. And he would witness me seeing that. And then at some point, I remember him saying, I think that's the Holy Spirit working on your heart. And we need to move on this. So that was
good.
Not all in like that, right? And so I don't think adoption is for everybody, but I think it's for a lot of people. And I think especially Christian homes, when, I think Jeff did, they had this study where it was like, if in the foster system alone, like if just a fraction of Christians from churches would adopt, there would be no one in the foster system.
It's incredible.
And it's an amazing thing to know and to share. And I would encourage people, if you want to go down that route, it's not easy. Like our best is different from our other kids as far as like, obviously he's a Black child, which, that didn't matter to us at all. But he's had little quirks, sensory issues that our other kids didn't have that we had to navigate through, right? And those were hard. They've been kind of tricky for us, but he's such an amazing kid, and he brings so much joy, and he loves the Lord, and he loves people, and he's so generous and kind, even as young as he is. He has had issues with, even as a little one, I think he was like 2 when he started saying, why am I brown and you're gray, Mommy?
Yeah.
And so those were issues and it's so hard because you love them. I'm like, when his pasty would fall on the ground, I would pick it up and put it in my mouth just like I did, right? Rinse it off, right? So when your first kid, you're like washing everything, you're like, here, it's clean, right?
Yeah, that's right. Right.
He drinks out of the same drink that I do.
Yeah.
Those things are, I'm like, you're my child. Like you're no different, in my eyes. But he felt different. And those are things that we've had to obviously reassure him constantly. And we've had those opportunities but it's hard. I'm sure it's hard every day when he looks in the mirror and he sees that he's different, and he wants to feel the same. And even though, it's hard because I'm like, baby, you're beautiful. Like God made you perfectly. We're all the same, right? Those are just skin tones. That's it.
That's right. That's right. I've had several friends adopt over the years. And I think even 10 years ago, people weren't as honest about how hard it was and just these different unique struggles of wherever, birth order or, country of origin or whatever. But I think people are being more honest, but still on the other side saying it was all worth it. Like I knew from the beginning he was supposed to be in my family, and no, it wasn't easy. So I love that. I think culture has allowed us maybe to overshare, but in a beautiful way. It's like people are being honest that like, this isn't easy, but so worth it. And that's what I hear you saying.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Okay, moms, I have something to share with you that I wish I had had when my kids were little. It's called Brave Books. Brave Books is a Christian publishing company creating stories that spark kids' imaginations for good. Now, these aren't your average children's books. They're incredible stories that teach important values like courage, perseverance, and standing up for truth through adventures your children will love. There are recurring characters, good guys versus bad guys, and every book is beautifully illustrated. And the most important thing is that each book includes family conversation starters and games that turn story time into quality time. It's the kind of tool that makes connecting as a family fun and easy, even when life feels crazy and messy. So whether you're in the thick of raising littles or looking for a meaningful gift for grandkids, head on over to bravebooks.com/mess and use the code MESS for 20% off your first purchase. That's bravebooks.com/mess. Code MESS. Trust me, you're going to love them.
Totally. And my husband works for a charity called All God's Children International, and they do a lot of orphan care and adoption, different things, but a lot of orphan care and aging out, like building these new homes called House of Hope for these kids that age out, which, so all of that has been adoption, foster, being a part of the foster system. We have several friends that after we adopted signed up to be foster parents. We didn't go that route, but it would be really hard for me to not, if I see a need, not to even feel that need to adopt again. My husband's going on another trip with AGCI, All God's Children International, and to Ethiopia. And I'm like, if I go, it's going to be really hard to know that we have the means and we have the love and we have the room to not want to open that door again, because he's like, Jessica, you got to draw. You can't just put it off everybody. But, so that, I think that's just part of my heart and nature of wanting, it's hard to see a child hurting and all they want is love, something that our kids easily have. And we sometimes take that for granted here.
That's right. Well, will you give me a couple organizations after we end to link to? So we'll link to that one. So if there's someone that's like, I think I want to foster, I think I want to adopt, but I don't even know where to begin. Will you send me some links to things that people could look up?
I will, for sure.
Okay, awesome. I want to tell you about my friend Lindsay. She's probably listening, but she is my friend that's single in her early 40s, and she never married, never had her own kids, but she is like the mentor aunt to so many. And so she had foster care on her heart, but was like, I'm a working girl, I'm single, what do I do? And so she signed up. I'm not going to get it right, but somewhere there's like respite care or something in the middle of like, we're about to place this foster child, but there's a 6 or 8 day window when either they're born. And so she bought a minivan. Is that not the cutest thing? And when I call her, I'm like, who's in your van this week? And she's like, I've got 3 siblings. I only have them for a week. Or she bought pack and place. And I thought, how amazing as a single woman of God to say, I only get them for a week, but I'm going to love them so well and make sure they're happy in this place of transition. And so I think God can just be so creative like that to say, no, adoption may not be for everybody or foster care, but there's so many ways we can help.
I love that. And there's a Foster the Village is a company in Austin that I have loved. And they do that. They get all these donations and everything. And any need, whether it's diapers, wipes, clothes, pack and place, car seats, all that, they're on the spot. They have warehouses full of, and so when they get that call, somebody needs, there's a foster family going to take this child, they immediately go to their aid. And I think that is such an amazing thing. It doesn't have to be adoption only. Like you said, it could be that you have the time, or you may have some money, or something that you can do. Maybe it's your platform, like just raising awareness for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, let's talk about your newest book. You've got several, but Dear Valor, how did that come about, and what do you hope people take away from that book?
So yes, here is Dear Valor. We partnered with Brave Books. Actually, my sister-in-law did a book the year before, and we just loved everything Brave stands for. And knew we wanted to partner with them. So when we started talking about a book, obviously adoption is heavy on our hearts and minds. And so Dear Valor is a tiger, and he has his adoptive parents are Arthur and Fiona, which are lions. So right away, they're different, and there's a time we got to kind of fill in that or include what Gus has gone through and asked us about being different. And so obviously, Valor starts getting asked by his friends, why are you different? Why don't you look like your mom and dad? And he didn't even kind of realize it at first, and so he starts to realize and start asking that question. And so one thing we did with Gus early on is we we talked about birth parents, but your birth parents are this, your birth parents look like this. So why do I still, your birth mommy looks like that, So, and that's something right away. I feel like being very open and honest is the way to go. And so, but anyway, so Valor obviously is struggling, wants to know who his birth parents are, which we haven't gone down that route with Gus. But I'm sure at some point he's going to want to know, dig and find out,
Yeah. That's right.
But, so anyway, Dear Valor, it's a really sweet story about obviously parents' love, unconditional love for their adopted child, and how he feels a little different and maybe hurt by his birth parents not being, there, which that's the beauty of adoption is not all birth parents, they're not bad just because they cannot provide a means. Or sometimes that's the most sacrificial love I've ever witnessed is realizing that and giving your child this opportunity that he or she may not have had. So I look at birth moms, and obviously I'm so grateful that she chose life, right?
Absolutely.
That could have been something that didn't happen. So so Brave, we got to write this beautiful book, and it's hopefully people can take away that to be able empathetic, right? To be able to talk to the kids that may not know anything about adoption. There's a lot of kids that really just don't know a lot about adoption. A little quick story of Gus last summer, he made All-Stars. So he had this new team that came together, and there were some other Black kids on the team too. And I remember walking up, and they were all waiting on the game, and Gus says something, Mom, calls him Mom. And the kid goes, That's your mom? And he's like, he said, Yes, I'm Mom. And he goes, That's your mom? And it was like, I said, yeah, I'm his mom. Gus is adopted. And he goes, adopted? Like it blew his mind. He didn't know the word almost. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I guess from where, if you grow up and you never witness other kids being adopted, right? Then you're in a bubble of not knowing anything. This book was a way that we can, basically have those conversations and then read something and their mind open to other possibilities of how even Valor might feel, right? Even Gus feels different. So how do we be empathetic? Teach kids to be empathetic and know like they might feel different. How do I make them feel included? How do I not make them feel like they are not part of this team or this classmate or that, all these things just because they're different, right? And it doesn't even have to be that they're a different color. They could just be different. They have other different mental issues that might set them apart, right? Or look differently in some way. So it's just about being able to have those conversations like that you don't even know that you need to have with your kids. You think they know about adoption, right? But not all kids do, and not all families. So it was such a fun project to work with Brave. I work with Brave still on, promoting even their Brave Plus platform, which is their streaming service. And I love just how amazing they vet these programs, all their books. Every book has a good, very Christian-based, biblical base, but a good lesson to learn, right? And every book I read of Brave, there's a moment, and these are kids' books, but there are moments in every single book I get choked up and I can hardly get the words out because it's that unconditional love, redemptive forgiveness in some stories, and so it's just the love of Christ, right? We're sharing through all these books, and Dear Valor is just one way we are using that.
I love it. I love that, like you said, this would be extremely helpful for a child that's been adopted. But for my kids that haven't, this is so great for just that empathy and compassion to go. And that could be anything. It'd be someone that's in a wheelchair or someone that's got a learning disability. It's like once they have language, because a lot of times when I meet parents, they want a script. It's like, what do I say about this? And it's like, okay, giving a story like that gives people a script or a scenario for them to not bump up against it the first time at Walmart and then have no idea what to say and be rude. It's like, and I think what you said is adoption isn't bad. It's not like, oh, poor Gus. It's like, oh my word, amazing that this is his story and amazing that he gets two sets of parents and all the things that come through the story of discovery. And like you said, just the empathy of someone going like, oh, I never thought about being in his shoes and what that might feel like.
Well, and obviously the biblical route is like we're all adopted through Jesus, through Christ. And I know in the back of the book, one scripture we got to put in is Ephesians 1:4-5, even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him. In love, he predestined us for adoption to himself as sons through Jesus Christ according to the purpose of his will. And that's just such a powerful scripture of just knowing, like,
Yep.
just like we're all adopted, right? We're all
That's
adopted
right.
to him. And
That's
so
right.
it's not a bad thing. It's biblical.
It's biblical. I love that. All right. Tell me what God's teaching you right now in parenting. It could be the grandparenting. It could be your third grader. Just give us one thing that you're learning right now.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I think just slowing down. I feel like slowing down, I'm still speeding up, right? There's still so much going on, but slowing down to enjoy like being a grandma now and having, I feel like I didn't hold my babies enough and smell them and just cuddle and look at them, just stare at them, right? Because I was busy. I was a busy mom. We had 4 kids in less than 6 years. So I was either nursing or pregnant or, just all those things, going to story time, going to the library, going to the park. And it's just slowing down enough to where you can appreciate those moments, right? Even as a grandmother, or Gus, like being so much younger than our other kids. Now he's doing All-Stars, right? So it's just enjoying those moments. I feel like God is teaching me to slow down because I'm a fast-paced person.
Yeah.
Rarely sit down at all during the day. I never watch TV during the day because I'm just like, there's always something to do.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's been a struggle for me to slow down, say no to some things so that I can slow down, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like as a new grandma, that's something I'm really trying to focus on, is so that I can be present still for my kids and my grandchild and still run around with my 9-year-old.
I love it. That's amazing. All right. I want to end here. One thing that keeps oozing from you and your eyes and your heart is just the power of a mother's love. And I think that as Christian parents, like, we want to be busy and do, and we want, like, people listening to the podcast are like, you tell me what to do. I'll have them memorize these 55 scriptures and I'll put them in a Christian school and a camp and all that. And so will you just remind us that, like, how far our love from Jesus flowing out of us to our kids matters? Because I think if you stay home a lot, you can kind of downplay your role and like, oh, I'm just a mom is kind of a phrase I hear a lot. And I know I've said. Yeah,
I know I've heard that a lot too. And I was really fortunate to get to stay at home with our kids. I always worked. I cleaned houses. I did real estate but I always had a job where I could still be present and be with my kids as much as possible during the day. A mother's love, I feel like it has no boundaries. It never ends, right? We say, oh, look, we're going to raise our kids. Then they're going to be adults and go. And I'm like, I have a 22-year-old now. And that, like, I'm still very present in her life. And I'm very fortunate she wants me to be, and she allows me to be very present in her life. And so, it's one of the greatest callings, I feel like. Seeing life come into the world and seeing your baby, our oldest, like bringing life into this world, like, that is the biggest miracle to me that God has ever allowed a woman to ever witness, because you get to be a part of Him creating life. And that is so powerful and so moving. And I just get excited about it because it's like, some people are like, oh, that's so hard. And I get pregnancy can be hard, but just to be able to witness creation and to be able to carry and know that God allowed us to do that, it is powerful and amazing. And it's such a gift, right? I'm so grateful for it. But it's unconditional. It's never ending. It's never stopping. Mom's love.
I love that. I remember after my first kid, I thought, if you don't believe in God, have you ever seen a child come into the world? Like, it's the most amazing thing. And I think it, like, cracked open a door to a love I had no idea. Like, and it's like, God's like, yeah, that's my love for you. Just, you're getting a glimpse. You're getting a glimpse.
You're getting a smidge of how much He loves you, which is so amazing. And that's where we get our peace and our hope is in Him, because we know He's a good God.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for doing this. And thanks for I'm sure it's not easy to be on a show and be famous and be so public, but y'all have done a really great job of honoring God with everything that He's given you and your family. So I appreciate what you guys are doing in the world.
Thank you so much. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Okay. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pardon the Mess. As always, we've got more encouragement and resources over at christianparenting.org. And you can also stay connected with us on social media at Pardon the Mess. And if you like this episode, I'd love for you to do 2 things. Press follow on whatever podcast platform you love, and also be sure to leave a rating so other parents can find us. Remember, you're never alone in this beautiful mess of parenting.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.